House sitting wasn't something I'd done before, but when Mrs. Caldwell, a kind woman in her 60s who lived a few blocks away, asked if I'd watch her house for a week, it seemed like an easy gig. She was visiting her daughter out of state and needed someone to water the plants, check the mail, and keep an eye on things. The pay was generous, and I figured it'd be a relaxing change from my usual routine in my tiny, noisy apartment. Her house was quaint and cozy, the kind you'd see in an old suburban postcard. It had creaky wooden floors, wallpaper that felt frozen in time, and a neat backyard garden bursting with flowers. When she handed me the keys and walked me through her instructions, she added one rule that stood out. "Keep the back door locked at all times," she said firmly, her hand lingering on the doorknob as if testing it. "No matter what, make sure it stays locked." I smiled, thinking she was just being cautious. "Don't worry, Mrs. Caldwell. I'll double-check it every night." She didn't smile back. Instead, she looked at me with an intensity I didn't expect. "I'm serious," she said, almost in a whisper. "That door doesn't stay locked on its own." I was tempted to ask what she meant, but the way her voice lowered made me hesitate. Instead, I nodded and reassured her. After she left, I told myself she was just being overly protective. Maybe the door latch was loose, or she'd had a bad experience before. It wasn't something to stress over. The first night was peaceful. The neighborhood was quiet. Just the faint sound of crickets and the occasional passing car. I spent the evening curled up on the sofa, scrolling through my phone and enjoying the calm. Before heading upstairs to bed, I made sure to check all the doors, especially the back one. I locked it, pulled on the handle to test it, and even gave it a second glance on my way up the stairs. It was secure. But when I came downstairs the next morning, something was wrong. The back door was open, just a crack, enough to let in the cold morning air. I stood there, staring at it, my mind racing to remember if I'd somehow forgotten to lock it. No, I was certain I'd checked it twice. Maybe it's just the wind, I muttered to myself, though the thought didn't sit right. Still, I pushed the door shut, locked it again, and moved on with my day, but I couldn't shake the sense that I wasn't alone in that house. By the second morning, I knew something was wrong. For the second day in a row, I found the back door cracked open. Just like before, the lock was undone, and the chilly morning air seeped into the kitchen. This time, I didn't dismiss it so easily. I was certain I'd locked it the night before. I remembered testing the handle twice before heading to bed. I couldn't make sense of it. The lock was sturdy, the door didn't seem broken, and there was no sign of forced entry. It wasn't as if someone could have come in and left without me hearing. The house was small, and the floors creaked loudly with even the slightest step. I stood there in my pajamas, staring at the door, trying to convince myself that I'd simply made a mistake, but deep down, I knew I hadn't. Determined to figure it out, I locked the door again, this time checking it 3 times before heading out to water the garden. All day, the thought gnawed at me. What if someone had been inside? What if they were still there? The idea sent a chill through me, but when I searched the house top to bottom, I found nothing out of place. That night, I decided to test it. Before going to bed, I locked the back door as usual, tugged on the handle, and set up a small barricade using a dining chair. It was a bit excessive, sure, but I needed peace of mind. I even snapped a photo of the locked door with my phone, just to be sure. Despite my precautions, I barely slept. Every creak of the house made my heart race, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. When I finally drifted off, it felt like only minutes before I was jolted awake by the faintest sound, a soft, deliberate click. My chest tightened as I lay there in the darkness, straining to hear it again. But the house had gone silent. When I came downstairs the next morning, I stopped cold. The chair I'd placed against the door was pushed aside, and the door itself was, once again, slightly ajar. The photo on my phone proved what I already knew. I had locked it. This wasn't me, and yet the question remained, How was it happening? Desperate for answers, I decided to take a more serious step. That afternoon, I purchased a small security camera from the local hardware store. If I couldn't stop the door from opening, at least I could see what or who was behind it. By the fifth night, I wasn't sleeping much. The unease that had crept into my routine had now completely taken over. Every creak, every shadow, every cool breeze through the house felt wrong, like it wasn't meant to be there. And the back door? That door had become the center of it all, the thing I couldn't escape. No matter how tightly I locked it or barricaded it, I knew what I'd find. Come morning, the lock undone, the door cracked open, and the chair or box I'd stacked against it pushed aside, but I couldn't let myself leave without understanding what was happening. I had the security camera, and it had already captured the strange movements of the door the night before. Tonight, I was going to leave it running again. This time, I didn't just lock the door. I wedged a heavy bar stool and several boxes in front of it, stacked as high as they could go. If the door opened again, I'd have undeniable proof of what or who was behind it. When I woke early the next morning, I felt the same heavy dread I'd been carrying for days. Slowly, I descended the stairs to the kitchen, afraid of what I might find. The bar stool was tipped over, the boxes spilled across the floor. The back door stood wide open, sunlight streaming through the gap. It wasn't just the lock anymore. The door itself seemed unwilling to stay shut. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the camera, stopped the recording, and played it back immediately. At first, the footage was quiet. The kitchen remained still, silent, just the dim outline of my barricade visible in the corner. Then, sometime around 3 a.m., the door handle moved. Slowly, methodically, it twisted, and the lock clicked open. What followed wasn't just unnatural, it was horrifying. The door creaked open, and a figure emerged. He was tall and lean, his face obscured by shadows, but his movements were deliberate, almost calm. He didn't enter the house. Instead, he stepped out, slipping through the barricade like it wasn't even there. He paused at the threshold for a moment, his back to the camera, before disappearing into the yard without a trace. I played the video 3 times, but no matter how many times I watched, the answer stayed the same. Nobody had come inside. This wasn't someone breaking in. It was someone leaving. And the worst part was, I had no idea how long they'd been there. Panicked, I called Mrs. Caldwell, my voice trembling as I described what the footage showed. For the first time, I hoped she'd have an explanation, something to make sense of it all. But when I finished, her response only added to the mystery. "I don't know," she said quietly. "I've owned this house for years, but I've never seen anything like that. The door's always been strange, though. It's why I kept telling you to lock it. I don't know who or what he is. And honestly, I don't think I want to." Her words left me cold, but I wasn't about to stick around to figure out what she meant. I packed my bags and left that same day. As I locked the front door for the last time, I glanced back at the backyard one final time. It was empty, quiet, still. But as I stood there, I swore I felt a pair of eyes watching me, just beyond the fence line. I didn't look back again.